Hello everyone, let us begin. So we have a new standard we are covering today, and we are to purchase stock with a set amount of money and follow the processes through gains, losses, and selling. Alright, so this video is the first in a series on investing. Now we have 4 LEQs, and in this particular video, we are only going to get to the first 2 LEQs. What is stock, and what are the common stock indexes? So in class, I share with you guys how interest can work against you in the form of loans, and I've tried to make you afraid of interest. And now I'm going to show you how interest can work for you, mainly through the form of investing. Now there are several types of investing. You can invest in real estate, you can invest in bonds, but in this video I'm going to focus on investing in stocks. So what are stocks, you ask? I'm sure you guys have heard of stocks before, and unfortunately there's not really one clear, concise definition of stock. So I gave you several mini snippets that you can form together of your own definition. So a stock is simply a form of financial capital that companies own. Now, if you want the shortest definition of stock, a stock represents shares of ownership of a company. So if you buy 1 share of stock, you own 1 share of ownership of that company. Now here's the thing, this sounds strange, but me, Mr. Jarrett, your economics financial literacy teacher, I own Amazon, I own Google, I own General Electric, I own Lockheed Martin, I own Home Depot, and I own hundreds of other companies you guys have never even heard of. So as crazy as it sounds, I'm in ownership of these companies. Now, let me ask you this. Do you think that I go to these company meetings and that I have anything to do with the way they run their business? No. And in fact, 99% of stockholders have nothing to do with running the company. They simply want the benefits of owning stock for that company. So let's go through these bullet points one by one very quickly and offer some analysis. So financial capital is simply money. So remember, capital is something that businesses can use to further their strategy, to further their investments, to further their profits, to expand their business. So companies sell stock to raise money. Companies sell stock to raise money. When they sell stock to the public, it's basically a fundraiser. They want to raise money. Now, it is in the company's best interest to perform well so the price of their stock increases. Now, in high school, I am not going to get into how stock price is determined. That's something I'll let you PhD accountants, our financiers, people who go to work for stock market, I'll let you guys determine that at your college PhD courses. But know that there are very smart people out there who determine the price of stock. Now, here's how stock works. Let's say you buy a share of a company for $20. Let's say company X. You buy 1 share for $20. Congratulations. You now own a very small percentage of that company. And then 6 months later, the price of the stock has gone up to $25. Cool. If you were to sell that stock right then, you just made a total profit of $5. Not bad for 6 months of time. Yeah, we got to do better than that, and I'll show you guys how to do that. All right, so let's move on. Okay, so how does one buy stock? Where do you even buy stock at? Can you just go to the Circle K and buy stock? Can you go to Publix and buy their stock? Can you go to Walmart and say, hey, I want to buy your stock? No, you cannot do that. Stock is traded on a stock market. A stock market is simply a place where stocks are exchanged, which is basically purchased and sold. All of you have heard of Wall Street, and Wall Street is the location of the New York Stock Exchange, the NYSE. It is the largest stock exchange in the world, and there are about 2,800 companies on the New York Stock Exchange. Now, many people don't invest for this reason. They're like, holy crap, 2,800 companies, how do I know which one to invest in? What if I invest in a bad company and lose money? What if I invest in a good company and gain a lot of money? That's excellent. That's why people pay, quote, experts, unquote, to tell them the best companies to invest in. But I'll share with you guys a different strategy in the next few homework videos. Now, in any given day, the New York Stock Exchange trades about 1.5 billion shares of stock. That is a lot of volume. Now, one thing that students often mistakenly are naive about is that, oh, the New York Stock Exchange is the only stock exchange in the world, and that is entirely false. There are many, many, many stock exchanges spread throughout the entire world. Some of the largest stock exchanges, we have the Tokyo Stock Exchange, the London Stock Exchange, the Shanghai Stock Exchange, and there's also a very large stock exchange in Brazil that covers most of South America. So please do not think that the New York Stock Exchange is the only stock exchange. There are many stock exchanges. Now, you all have been living in America for hopefully longer than a few weeks, and you have heard this phrase before. Stocks are up today. Stocks are down today. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 2.3 percentage points today. The S&P 500 is up 13 points. Oh, the stock market crash of 2008. Stocks are down 120 points. That's terrible. So what in the world are they talking about? What they're referring to is indexes. So its index is this. A stock index is a measure of the value of a section of the stock market. Now keep in mind, there's 2,800 stocks in the New York Stock Exchange. An index measures certain stocks, okay? So guys, the easy definition of an index is a measure of certain stocks of the stock market. It is computed from the prices of selected stocks. It is a tool used by investors and financial managers and financial literacy teachers to describe the market and to compare the return of specific investments. So if you hear the S&P 500 is up 20 points today, you know, okay, well, the S&P 500 is an index. The most common stock indexes that you'll hear about in the news are the NASDAQ, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and the S&P 500. So let's briefly see what these three indexes are. So before I move on, I want to emphasize there are about 2,800 stocks in the New York Stock Exchange. That does not mean there's 2,800 companies in the world. These are only companies that are traded on the New York Stock Exchange. There's about 2,800 of them. Okay. Of those 2,800, there are different indexes. The three biggest ones, NASDAQ, Dow Jones Industrial Average, and S&P 500, that measure the performance of different sectors. All right, so let's do some examples. The NASDAQ covers more than 5,000 companies. Now keep in mind, I said there's only 2,800 traded on the New York Stock Exchange. The NASDAQ covers international companies as well. Now the NASDAQ focuses primarily on technology, telecom, which is like Verizon, Sprint, America Online, things like that, and the internet industry. So if you hear something like the NASDAQ is up 3 points today, that means that in general, the average performance of companies in the technology field, the telecommunication fields, and the internet fields had a good day. If you hear something like the NASDAQ plummeted today 80 points, that means that out of the 5,000 companies it measures, now keep in mind, there's 2,800 traded in the New York Stock Exchange. The NASDAQ looks at worldwide companies. If you hear that it went down 80 points, well, that means that companies in technology, telecom, and internet industry had a bad day. Okay, cool. So that's the NASDAQ. That's an index. The Dow Jones are just more commonly referred to as the Dow, so you can just say the Dow. It measures only the 30 largest companies traded on the New York Stock Exchange. So out of those 2,800 companies, the Dow Jones measures the 30 largest. That's it. Whether they are in technology, oil, let's see here, if they are in automobile manufacturing, whatever it is. Now, I'm not going to list all 30 companies, but some of the biggest companies in the world, the most profitable ones, we have Disney, which we've all heard of, Exxon, which is a gas company, General Electric. If you have an electric appliance in your house, chances are it's made by General Electric, and Microsoft. So that's 4 of those 30 companies. Now here's the thing, guys. Here's what's scary. These 30 companies are so large and so big and so powerful, we can get a good indicator of the health of the entire economy by only looking at these 30 companies. You know what? Forget the other 2,770 companies. These 30 companies are so big, we can tell how the economy is doing. If these 30 companies are doing good, then the economy is doing good. If these 30 companies are doing bad, then regardless of what the other 2,770 companies are doing, the economy is doing bad. So when you hear the Dow, we are talking about the 30 largest companies in the New York Stock Exchange. And finally, we are left with the S&P 500, which is short for Standard & Poor's. The Dow measures the 30 largest companies. The S&P 500 measures, guess Guess, class, guess. The 500 largest companies, okay? Now, there are arguments out there that the Dow is not really an accurate measure because, again, think about it, 2,800 companies, it only measures 30. Most people, myself, including, other financial experts, people on Wall Street and the stock market, they prefer to look at the S&P 500. The NASDAQ is kind of weak because it only measures technology, or I should say only, it primarily measures technology. Well, okay, solar technology had a bad day. What about the natural gas industry? What about the oil industry? What about the automobile industry? What about the shipping industry? There's a lot of other industries other than technology. The Dow, even though it covers all industries, it's only the 30 largest companies. The S&P 500 is the preferred stock market index because it measures the 500 largest companies. All right, guys, so here's the thing. I cannot begin to cover the complexities of the stock market in one short video. So this is going to be the first part of a series in which your understanding will gradually begin to improve. So if you watch this video and you are still slightly confused, then you are exactly where you should be. Just how when we first started covering interest on the introductory video, Interest Part 1, many of you came to class confused the next day, and that is okay. As we work through examples, you guys will begin to start to grasp at this better and better. So here's the LEQ in review. What is stock? I gave you, several bullet points. Those are the most basic ones I want you to know. If I were to ask you what is stock, you can say stock represents shares of ownership of a company. Stock represents shares of ownership of a company. That's the simplest, easiest definition. And then finally, what are the common stock indexes? It is the NASDAQ, which measures technology stocks. There's the Dow Jones Industrial Average, aka the Dow, which measures the 30 largest companies and the New York Stock Exchange. And there's the S&P 500, which measures the 500 largest companies. That's all I want you guys to know coming to class tomorrow. It's time for some extra credit. We have not done this in a while. So tomorrow, when I ring the bell, and please wait. Some of you guys get really antsy. And I appreciate your enthusiasm, but wait for me to ring the bell and then say all eyes on me. When I say all eyes on me, you're going to stand up quickly and you're going to say, show me the money. If you guys have seen Jerry Maguire with Tom Cruise in it, that's what that phrase is from. I'm sure you've heard the phrase show me the money before. Though to summarize, I'm going to ring the bell, wait until I say good morning or good afternoon, I need all eyes on me. And then you are going to stand up and say, show me the money, and I will get you some extra credit. Thank you all for viewing the video. I'll see you all in class.